You think you know the monsters of America. You have heard the campfire tales of Bigfoot, the whispers of the Wendigo. These are stories told for entertainment, myths that invite curiosity. But in the high, cold deserts of the American Southwest, there exists a different kind of story. It is not a story, it is a silence. It is a word that is not spoken. It is a name that, when uttered aloud, is said to invite a darkness into your life from which you cannot recover. This is the ultimate forbidden truth of American folklore. We are talking about the ánti'ihnii, the Skinwalker. Tonight, on Umbral Fables, we are breaking that taboo. We are not just investigating a monster, we are investigating the fear itself. Why is this legend treated with such profound, deadly seriousness by the Navajo people? Why do elders refuse to speak its name? And why do they warn outsiders that to even research this topic is to put yourself in spiritual peril? Hollywood has tried to adapt this legend, turning it into a simple werewolf or a generic creature feature. They have failed, spectacularly. They missed the point. The Skinwalker is not an animal. It is not a beast. It is the antithesis of humanity. It is the horror of a neighbor who looks human, but is a hollow shell. A healer who has inverted their power to harm. A community member who has embraced the ultimate spiritual corruption. This is not folklore. This is a living system of justice and terror. This is the story of the dark side of shamanism, the price of forbidden power, and the psychological weight of a taboo so powerful it has kept a nation in terrified silence for centuries. We will dissect the philosophy of the Hózhó, the Navajo path of beauty and balance, and the ánti'ihnii, the one who walks on all fours. This is the darkest truth the American continent holds. To understand the Skinwalker, you must first erase every image Hollywood has given you of werewolves or shapeshifters. The Skinwalker is not a curse, it is a choice. It is the terrifying endpoint of a human quest for forbidden power. In Diné, Navajo culture, the most respected figure is the Hatawi, or the medicine man. This figure is a healer, a spiritual guide whose life is dedicated to maintaining Hózhó, the universal concept of balance, harmony, beauty, and order. The medicine man uses sacred knowledge, songs, and sand paintings to restore balance to those who are sick or out of sync with the universe. The Ant'iihnii, or Skinwalker, is the shadow self of the healer. It is the Hatawi inverted. It is a witch. This is a man or woman who, driven by greed, rage, or a profound hunger for power, deliberately chooses to reject Hózhó. They walk the path of the pollen, the path of righteousness, backwards. To gain their power, they must perform the ultimate act of transgression, the darkest taboo. They must commit a ritual act so profound, so unnatural, and so spiritually devastating against their own kin, breaking the most sacred bonds of family, that it shatters their humanity. This act is the price of entry into the Skinwalker society. It is the definitive, irreversible step into the darkness. Once this line is crossed, the individual dies, and the witch is born. They gain access to unnatural powers, the ability to run faster than a horse, to control minds, to spread sickness, and most famously, to take the form of an animal. This is not a transformation in the magical sense, it is a defilement. To the Navajo, the Skinwalker is not a monster to be feared, it is a traitor to be loathed. It is the ultimate insider threat, a cancer within the community, which is why the fear is so personal and so profound. The name Skinwalker is a literal translation. The witch does not turn into an animal like a werewolf. They wear the animal. The process is a dark ritual of contamination. The witch must hunt and kill the animal it wishes to mimic, a coyote, a wolf, a bear, an owl, and then ritualistically cure its pelt. To activate the power, they don a mask or cloak made of this pelt. This act is a horrific violation of the natural order. In Diné belief, animals are sacred, imbued with their own spirit. By wearing the skin, the witch is not just disguising itself, it is corrupting the spirit of that animal, hijacking its form, and twisting it for malevolent purpose. This is why sightings of skinwalkers are so uniquely terrifying. Witnesses do not report seeing a perfect wolf or a perfect coyote. They report seeing something wrong. They see a coyote with eyes that glow an unnatural, human-like red or orange. They see a bear that moves too fast, too jerkily like a puppet. They see a wolf that runs on two legs before dropping to all fours. They see an owl tapping on a window, staring with an intelligence that is deeply, chillingly human. This is the uncanny valley of the animal kingdom. The Skinwalker is a glitch in the natural world. It is a human mind, a mind full of malice, greed, and cunning, driving the body of a predator. This makes it infinitely more dangerous than any normal animal. A wolf hunts for food. A Skinwalker hunts for you. It might be seeking revenge, stealing resources, or simply reveling in the terror it causes. The wearing of the skin is the ultimate symbolic act. The witch has become so hollow inside, so devoid of its own Hózhó, harmony, that it must wrap itself in the stolen identity of another living being to interact with the world. Why is this the forbidden truth? Why, unlike almost any other mythological figure in the world, is it considered genuinely dangerous to simply talk about the Skinwalker? This is not just superstition, it is a profound psychological and cultural defense mechanism. To the Ánti'ihnii, words have power. Language is not just descriptive, it is creative. To speak of something is to give it substance, to acknowledge it, and to call it into reality. To name the Skinwalker is to empower it. To tell a story about Ánt'iihnii around a campfire is seen as a form of invitation, broadcasting your fear and awareness out into the spiritual world, making you a potential target. This creates a powerful cultural containment protocol. The first rule of fighting the Skinwalker is to deny it your mental energy. The elders will not speak of it, especially to outsiders, because they believe that the non-Navajo, in their ignorance and lack of spiritual training, will treat the topic with a dangerous flippancy. This silence serves two purposes. First, it is a practical defense. Second, it is a social one. By refusing to name the witch, the community collectively starves it of the attention and fear it craves. It is a communal shunning of the concept itself. This is why the Skinwalker myth is so potent. It is defined by its own absence in conversation. The terror is not in the stories that are told, but in the silence where the stories should be. This void is scarier than any narrative. This is the info hazard of the American desert, the Roko's basilisk of ancient folklore. It is a concept that allegedly harms you simply by you becoming aware of it. The Umbral Fables investigation is, by this very definition, a transgression. We are participating in the very act that the elders forbid. The Skinwalker is not a distant, Bigfoot-like creature that avoids humanity. It is an intrusive horror. Its entire purpose is to disrupt Hózhó, harmony, and it does so by attacking the safest place, the home. The most common Skinwalker reports are not from deep in the woods. They are from the edges of one's property, just beyond the light of the porch. They are masters of psychological warfare. Their methods are not immediate brute force attacks. They are a slow, grinding campaign of terror designed to break the sanity of their victims. Reports often begin with sounds. A knock on the wall in a pattern of 3, a sacred number inverted. A voice mimicking a loved one calling for help from the darkness outside. The sound of something heavy walking on the roof, scratching at the shingles. This is the first stage, the violation of the sanctuary. The witch proves that your walls cannot protect you. Then come the visual sightings, the red-orange eyes glowing in the dark, just at the edge of the property line. The figure of a massive, unnatural wolf standing silently at the end of the driveway, simply watching. The owl that lands on the windowsill and does not move for hours, its head tilted at an impossible angle. The final stage is the direct physical attempt. The witch, in animal form, may try to break down the door or run alongside a car at impossible speeds, staring at the driver with human eyes. They are also said to possess the power of corpse poison, a mystical substance used to inflict slow, wasting illnesses that medicine cannot cure. The Skinwalker, in essence, is the ultimate stalker. It is the horror of the neighbor, the terror that the evil is not in a distant castle, but in the next house over. To truly understand the modern Skinwalker phenomenon, we must perform a critical investigation, separating the authentic, sacred, and terrifying taboo from the commercialized, sensationalized hype that now dominates pop culture. The single greatest vector for this distortion is the infamous Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. It is important to state clearly, while the ranch borrows the name, the phenomena reported there, UFOs, interdimensional portals, poltergeists, cattle mutilations, and government conspiracies, have almost nothing to do with the original Navajo legend. The Skinwalker is not a place, it is a person. It is an internal, communal threat, a human witch who has chosen a dark path. The ranch, in contrast, externalizes the horror, turning it into a paranormal Disneyland, a localized zone where all forms of high strangeness converge. This shift is critical. It takes a specific, coherent, and profound cultural philosophy about human corruption and dilutes it into a generic, marketable mystery. The media loves Skinwalker Ranch because it is safe. It is a story about us, modern researchers, billionaires, TV hosts, encountering the unknown. This is a comfortable, colonialist narrative of exploration. The real myth is uncomfortable. It is a story about them, about the enemy within, about a neighbor consumed by greed, about a complex moral failing that cannot be measured with a Geiger counter. This commercialization of the name has effectively sanitized the taboo, which is perhaps the greatest transgression of all. By attaching the Skinwalker name to UFOs and cattle mutilations, the media and entertainment industry have stripped the word of its specific, terrible power. They have turned a profound spiritual concept into a generic brand for spooky stuff. This is the Umbral Fables thesis in action, the sanitization of horror. The terror of the ánti'ihnii is the terror of social decay. The terror of Skinwalker Ranch is the thrill of a theme park ride. This is why the Navajo elders are silent. Not only do they fear the spiritual consequences of speaking the name, they are also rightfully protective of a complex moral doctrine being twisted into a cheap commodity. The hype you see on television, the 477K view videos of real encounters, are almost exclusively focused on this diluted, externalized, ranch version of the myth. The original truth, the forbidden internal story of the human witch, remains hidden, protected by the very silence that the entertainment industry seeks to exploit. The Skinwalker of the internet is a monster. The Skinwalker of the DNA is a philosophy. And it is the philosophy that holds the true, enduring power. We must look past the reality shows and back to the source to understand the genuine article. To truly grasp the unique position the Skinwalker holds in the pantheon of dark mythology, it is essential to compare it to the other great taboo monster of the North American continent, the Wendigo. Both are feared. Both are spoken of in hushed tones. Both originate from indigenous folklore. But they are fundamentally different kinds of horror, born from different kinds of anxiety. The Wendigo, as we explored in Fearsome Critters, is the horror of the physical world. It is the personification of starvation, of the endless hungry winter, and of the taboo of cannibalism. The Wendigo is a creature of need. It is born when a human succumbs to the gnawing hunger of the frozen wild, committing the ultimate act of consumption to survive. It is a monster of failed biology, a psychosis born from famine. The Skinwalker, however, is the horror of the social world. It is not born from need, it is born from greed. It is not a creature of starvation, it is a creature of ambition. A person does not become a Skinwalker to survive. They choose to become one to gain power, to inflict harm, to accumulate wealth, or to exact revenge. This is a profound distinction. The Wendigo represents the failure of the body in the face of an indifferent nature. The Skinwalker represents the failure of the soul in the face of human corruption. This makes the Skinwalker a far more complex and terrifying entity. You can, theoretically, avoid the Wendigo by storing enough food and respecting the winter. You cannot avoid the Skinwalker because the Skinwalker may be your uncle, your neighbor, or the respected community leader. The Wendigo is an external threat from the wild. The Skinwalker is an internal threat from within civilization. This insider status is the core of the psychological dread. Furthermore, the Skinwalker is a white-collar monster. Its motivations are sophisticated: political control, jealousy, and the desire to cause sickness or misfortune from a distance. The Wendigo is a blue-collar monster. Its motivation is singular and primal: hunger. The Wendigo is a force of nature. The Skinwalker is a force of human nature. It is the darkness that exists within the social contract itself. This is why the Skinwalker myth has proven so durable. While the specific terror of starvation-induced psychosis has faded with modern convenience, the terror of a trusted community member using hidden power to sabotage you is timeless. It is the horror of office politics, of family feuds, and of political corruption, all given a supernatural form. The Wendigo horrifies us with what we might do to survive. The Skinwalker horrifies us with what we might do, willingly, just to win. In the complex tapestry of Diné Navajo cosmology, there is no figure more central or more complex than the coyote, Ma'i. The coyote is the ultimate trickster figure. He is not good or evil in the simple binary Western sense. He is a force of chaos, creativity, folly, and profound wisdom. He is the one who breaks the rules so that the rules can be known. He is a teacher through negative example, a buffoon whose arrogance leads to lessons for humanity. He is sacred precisely because he is flawed, representing the necessary chaos that balances the perfect order of Hózhó. The Skinwalker myth takes this sacred, complex archetype and performs the ultimate act of corruption. It inverts the trickster. The Skinwalker is the trickster with all the playfulness removed, leaving only pure, cold malice. The most common form a Skinwalker is said to take is that of a coyote. This is not an arbitrary choice. By wearing the skin of the coyote, the witch is not just hiding, it is committing an act of profound blasphemy. It is taking the form of a sacred teacher and using it to inflict harm. This is the psychological horror of the inverted symbol. It is like seeing a doctor's caduceus used as a weapon, or a child's toy that whispers threats. The Skinwalker corrupts the sacred. When a Diné person sees an actual coyote acting strangely, lingering too close to a home, standing on its hind legs, or showing an unnatural lack of fear, they are not just seeing an animal. They are witnessing a perversion. They are seeing their sacred symbol of chaos hijacked by a human consciousness motivated by anti-Hózhó, discord, ugliness, chaos for chaos's sake. This is why Skinwalker encounters are so unsettling. The entity often plays with its victims, mirroring the behavior of the trickster but in a predatory way. It will tap on the window, mimic a voice, or simply stand and watch, enjoying the psychological breakdown it is causing. This is not a hunt for food. It is a performance of power. The witch is proving that it has desecrated the natural order, that it can wear the skin of a god and turn it into a tool of terror. This act is the ultimate display of nihilism. It is a statement that nothing is sacred, not even the gods of the desert. This deep-level symbolic violation is what separates the Skinwalker from a common monster and elevates it to the status of a true, philosophical adversary. As the Skinwalker legend escaped the protective silence of the Diné nation and entered the global echo chamber of the internet, it began to mutate. It entered the realm of creepypasta and digital folklore, where it was stripped of its cultural context and merged with other unrelated legends. This dilution is a key part of the modern story, a sanitization driven by ignorance. The most common misinterpretation is the fusion of the Skinwalker with the legend of the Goatman. Originating primarily from Maryland and Texas, the Goatman is a separate entity, often described as an axe-wielding, half-man, half-goat creature born from a scientific experiment gone wrong, the Bellsville Agricultural Research Center myth, or a lonely, half-mad hermit. The internet, however, loves to conflate its monsters. The visual of a hybrid creature, humanoid with animal legs, became a convenient generic label. Now countless true stories online will describe a goatman and call it a skinwalker, and vice versa. This muddies the water and demonstrates a profound disrespect for the original specific philosophies of both myths. This dilution is a form of cultural erosion. It takes a complex, terrifying, and sacred moral doctrine, the Aunti'ihnii as the ultimate human traitor who wears the skin, and reduces it to just another monster in the woods. This is the fearsome critters phenomenon repeating itself. The psychological terror is lost, and only the clickbait visual remains. This modern misinterpretation often focuses on the what, it looked like a dog on two legs, and ignores the why, it was a human witch who had performed an act of profound corruption. The Umbral Fables investigation must draw a hard line. The Goatman is a product of modern mad scientist or isolated hermit anxiety. The Skinwalker is the product of an ancient, complex theological framework concerning social and spiritual law. They are not the same. This confusion is amplified by the visual nature of the internet. A blurry photo of any bipedal creature in the dark is immediately labeled a skinwalker, further draining the word of its true power. The taboo has been broken not by speaking the name, but by misusing it so thoroughly that it has become a generic tag for any unexplained animal sighting. The real horror in this case is the power of the internet to sanitize and erase 1,000 years of sacred tradition in less than a decade of memes. How does a community survive when its ultimate monster is not an external force, but an internal one? The Skinwalker is a neighbor horror. The threat is insidious, psychological, and ever-present. The Navajo philosophy, therefore, is not built on monster hunting, but on spiritual defense and the maintenance of Hózhó, harmony, as a shield. The entire culture is structured as a spiritual battlefield, where the primary goal is to maintain balance, not to seek out and destroy evil. The defense against a skinwalker is not a weapon, but a way of life. It is said that the witches are repelled by a strong, harmonious home. They prey on the isolated, the depressed, the greedy, or those who are out of balance with the world, those whose own inner chaos makes them vulnerable to the external chaos of the witch. This makes the fight against the skinwalker a daily practice of mental and spiritual fortitude. When an attack is suspected, when a family suffers from an unnatural sickness or a series of terrifying encounters, the response is not to grab a rifle, but to call a ánti'ihnii, medicine man. The healer is the antithesis of the skinwalker. The witch uses knowledge to corrupt. The healer uses knowledge to restore. The healer will perform complex multi-day ceremonies, sings or chants, designed to identify the source of the imbalance and push back the darkness. These ceremonies involve intricate sand paintings, which are seen as temporary portals for holy power, sacred songs, and community participation. The goal is to reinforce the victim's connection to Hózhó, strengthening their spiritual immune system so the witch's poison can no longer find purchase. This is a profound concept. The battle is not fought with violence, but with beauty. The community defeats the ultimate symbol of social decay, the witch, by reinforcing the ultimate symbol of social cohesion, the ceremony. This is why the Skinwalker legend is not just a scary story. It is the moral bedrock of a culture. It is the narrative that explains why Hózhó is not just a nice idea, but an essential survival strategy in a universe where human beings are capable of choosing the path of the monster. Beyond the immediate visceral terror of the unnatural animal, the Skinwalker myth is defined by a more insidious, patient, and psychologically devastating weapon: the corpse poison. This is not a simple club or blade. It is a complex, ritualized, and alchemical substance designed to inflict suffering from a distance. The Aunti'ihnii is, at their core, a witch in the classical sense, a master of dark herbology and forbidden chemistry. The corpse poison, often called corpse powder or ánti'ihnii, is the pinnacle of this dark science. It is said to be a complex compound made from the powdered, ritualistically prepared remains of the dead, specifically the bones of infants, or those who died in sorrow, mixed with toxic plants and animal venoms. This is the ultimate perversion of the healer's medicine bundle. Where the ánti'ihnii, healer, uses plants and minerals to restore life, the witch uses death itself to destroy it. This powder is the physical manifestation of the curse. It is not a fantasy. It is a form of early biological and chemical warfare, wrapped in a supernatural shell. The methods of delivery are what create the profound, inescapable paranoia. The witch does not need to confront you. They can blow the powder through your window while you sleep. They can drop it down your chimney. They can place it on a fence post where you will touch it. the results are not immediate. The victim is afflicted with a wasting sickness, a slow, degenerative illness that traditional Western medicine cannot diagnose or cure. The victim weakens, suffers from profound depression, endures hallucinations, and eventually, their body simply gives out. This is the horror of the unseen vector. It is the Nosferatu plague, but weaponized with human intelligence. The Skinwalker acts as a spiritual and biological terrorist. This element of the myth is crucial because it explains the witch's true power. The witch is not just a shapeshifter, they are a master of disease. This taps into our most primal, modern anxieties: the fear of contamination, of invisible threats, of illnesses that defy science. The corpse poison is the ultimate metaphor for the power of malice. It is a slow, patient, and calculated evil, a poison made from pure human spite. It proves that the Skinwalker's greatest weapon is not the claw, but the mind. It is a creature of profound, dark intelligence, capable of turning the very essence of death into a tool of control. This transforms the monster from a simple boogeyman into a terrifyingly sophisticated and patient enemy. The physical horror of the Skinwalker's form is secondary to the psychological horror of its mimetismo. The witch is not just a predator. It is an intelligence specialist. It is an infiltrator. The most terrifying stories from the Dene are not about attacks, but about deception. The Skinwalker, being a human witch, has a human's understanding of psychology. It studies its victims. It learns the layout of the home, the names of the family, and the sounds of its prey. The most common attack vector is auditory. The witch will stand in the darkness just outside the light of the home and mimic the voice of a loved one. It will cry out for help in the voice of your child. It will whisper your name in the voice of your spouse. It will call to you from the dark, begging you to open the door, to step outside. This is the ultimate uncanny valley of sound. It is a perversion of the call of the familiar. The brain is split in two. The animal part hears a loved one in distress and is flooded with an instinctive chemical need to help. The rational part knows it is 3 a.m., that your child is in their bed, and that the voice outside is wrong. This is the true horror of the taboo. The Skinwalker weaponizes your love. It turns your compassion into a vulnerability. It forces you into a no-win scenario. Either you ignore a potential family member in peril, or you open the door to the monster that has been hunting you. This implies an intimate, cold, calculating intelligence. The witch is not just roaring, it is thinking. It is actively engaged in psychological warfare. This extends to visual mimetismo as well. The Skinwalker in animal form will often act in unnatural ways to maximize fear. It will stand on its hind legs and peer in the window. It will run alongside a car, keeping pace at 70 miles per hour, but its face will be turned, its glowing red eyes locked perfectly with the driver's. This is not the behavior of an animal. It is the behavior of an intelligent entity performing as a monster to shatter your sanity. This is a level of malice that separates the Skinwalker from all other myths. The Wendigo is hungry. The hide-behind is shy. The Skinwalker is cruel. It enjoys the sport of dismantling your reality, of turning your home into a psychological prison where every sound is a potential threat and every shadow holds a pair of human eyes in an animal's skull. It is the horror of the imposter, the enemy that knows your name. The fear of the Skinwalker as an external predator eventually evolves into a deeper, more profound, and more existential dread. The fear that the witch can replace you. This connects the Skinwalker myth directly to the ancient, terrifying European folklore of the changeling. In Irish and Scottish lore, the fair folk would steal a healthy human infant and leave a sickly, twisted stock or changeling in its place, a creature that looked almost human, but was wrong. The terror was the horror of the internal imposter. The Skinwalker legend contains this same anxiety, but magnified to an adult level. What if the witch's ultimate power is not just wearing the skin of a wolf, but wearing the skin of a human? This is the Skinwalker name taken to its most literal, horrifying conclusion. This is the paranoia that defines the Umbral Fables thesis on invasion of the body snatchers or the thing. It is the ultimate horror of identity. How can you be sure the person who returned from the woods is the same person who went in? This paranoia is the true hidden engine of the taboo of silence. The community refuses to speak of the ánti'ihnii because the witch is not a monster from the mountains. The witch is a member of the community. It could be the quiet woman down the road. It could be the wealthy man who seems to have too much luck. It could be a family member. By choosing the path of corruption, the witch has become a faceling from the backrooms or a thing, a perfect mimic that wears a human pelt but is hollow inside. This transforms the entire social fabric into a minefield of suspicion. The Skinwalker, in this interpretation, is the ultimate insider threat. It is the horror that your neighbor, your friend, or your leader is a hollow entity, a sociopath wearing a mask of humanity. This is why the legend is so psychologically potent. It is not a story about monsters versus humans. It is a story about humans versus humans who pretend to be human. This anxiety is timeless. In the 19th century, it was the fear of the secret witch. In the 21st century, it is the fear of the deepfake, the digital imposter, the social media personality who is a complete fabrication. The Skinwalker is the original deepfake, an entity that has mastered the art of identity theft to such a degree that it can steal your form, your voice, and your life, leaving you to wonder if the people you love are really people at all. Now we must pull back from the supernatural terror and apply the cold lens of sociological forensics. The Skinwalker myth, for all its horror, is not just a story. It is a vital social mechanism. It is a necessary operating system for a closed, tight-knit society. In the ancient Dene world, before the arrival of modern legal structures, how did the community deal with its worst actors? How did it conceptualize and punish the sociopath? How did it explain the man who accumulated vast wealth while his neighbors starved, or the woman who seemed to revel in creating discord? How did it handle the murderer, the abuser, the power-hungry? They labeled them ánti'ihnii. The Skinwalker myth is the personification of the sociopath. It is the name a society gives to the individual who rejects Hózhó, harmony, and operates on pure narcissistic self-interest. By creating this label, the Dene were able to categorize, identify, and create a justification for purging these toxic individuals from the community. The legend functions as a powerful reinforcement of the social contract. It is a system of checks and balances for a world without police. The moral of the myth is a deterrent. Do not put your own greed above the good of the tribe. Do not hoard resources. Do not practice malice. If you do, you are not human. You are a witch, and you will be feared, hunted, and removed. The darkest taboo, the act required to become a witch, is the ultimate test of this. It proves that the witch has actively, consciously, and violently broken the bonds of kinship. This makes them a clear and present danger to the entire social structure. The taboo of speaking the name also serves this function. It prevents false accusations. You do not lightly call someone a skinwalker because the word itself is so dangerous. To do so is to mark someone for death. The myth, therefore, is not just a scary story. It is a complex and sophisticated legal and moral framework. It is the boogeyman as social immune system, a necessary antibody created by the culture to fight the infection of human corruption. This is why the legend is so much more profound than a simple werewolf. It is not about a monster. It is about the definition of humanity. The Skinwalker is the line, and the witch is the one who, by choice, has crossed it. Why does this specific, ancient, and deeply localized myth have such explosive power now? Why does it generate 477,000 views on a random Tuesday, dwarfing almost every other piece of folklore? The answer is that the Skinwalker is the perfect monster for the 21st century. We are living in an age of profound paranoia, social disconnection, and identity anxiety. The Skinwalker myth has broken containment from the Dene Nation and gone globally viral because it speaks to all our deepest modern fears. We are a society obsessed with the insider threat. We fear the deepfake, the digital imposter, the social media personality who is a complete fabrication. We are terrified that the faces we see on our screens are just pelts, worn by something else. The Skinwalker is the original deep fake, an entity that has mastered the art of identity theft. Furthermore, we live in a world where the taboo has been commercialized and destroyed. The Umbral Fables channel exists because we are starved for consequence. The Skinwalker legend provides that. It is one of the last, true, dangerous myths left in the Western world. The internet's obsession with it is twofold. First, it is the thrill of transgression. By clicking on a video titled Forbidden Navajo Truth, the viewer is getting a small, safe thrill of breaking the rules, of peeking behind the curtain of a taboo. Second, and more importantly, it represents authentic horror. Unlike a Hollywood monster, the Skinwalker is real to the culture that believes in it. The silence of the Navajo elders is the ultimate proof. In an age of digital noise and fake news, we are desperate for something that feels true. The Skinwalker is terrifying because the fear surrounding it is authentic. The 477,000 view video is not just people looking for a scare, it is people looking for truth. They are looking for a system of belief that still has power, that hasn't been sanitized or defanged by corporate marketing, as we saw with Dracula. The Skinwalker is the antithesis of the modern, softened monster. It is raw, dangerous, and culturally potent. It is the perfect storm of ancient taboo and modern paranoia. It is the ultimate lost monster that has been found by the internet, and its power is only just beginning to be understood by the mainstream. The true defining power of the Skinwalker myth, the element that makes it a true Umbral fable, is not the visual of the creature itself, but the absence of that visual. This is the horror of the unspoken. The entire legend is a masterclass in negative space, where the fear is built not from what is described, but from what is withheld. The refusal of the Diné elders to speak the name Ánt'iihnii is the single most powerful piece of marketing this myth possesses. This silence is an act of profound psychological power. It creates a vacuum. The human mind, particularly the curious Western mind, abhors a vacuum. When told, "Do not look behind this curtain," the immediate, overwhelming impulse is to look. The taboo itself creates the monster. By forbidding the discussion, the culture imbues the topic with a perceived power that no monster movie or CGI creature could ever achieve. The Skinwalker is terrifying not because of what it is, but because we are told we cannot know what it is. This is the ultimate info hazard, as we discussed with Rocco's basilisk. It is a concept that gains power from its own suppression. This mechanism is far more sophisticated than the jump scare tactics of Hollywood horror. Hollywood is obsessed with the reveal, the moment the monster steps into the light. The Skinwalker myth argues that the true horror is the moment before the reveal, stretched out into infinity. The monster never steps into the light. It remains forever in the periphery, in the dark spot on the edge of the property, in the sound of a voice mimicking your child. This forces the audience, and the believer, to become the co-creator of their own terror. The mind, fed only silence and shadow, populates that void with its own worst fears. Is it a wolf? A man? A mix of both? The not knowing is the torture. This is the same technique of atmospheric dread we saw in Nosferatu, the horror of the shadow, and the backrooms, the horror of the empty hall. The Skinwalker is the ultimate empty hall monster. It is a concept so pure in its malice that it does not require a fixed form. It is the archetype of the other that is also the insider. This paradox, that the monster is both unknown and intimately familiar, your neighbor, is what elevates this myth from a simple campfire tale to a masterpiece of psychological, existential dread. The taboo is the monster. The Skinwalker legend taps into another profound primal human terror that is rarely discussed: the horror of the doppelganger, or the fetch. This is the ancient cross-cultural fear of seeing an exact double of oneself, an event which almost universally heralds madness or an impending unnatural end. The Skinwalker, however, is a moral doppelganger. It is not just a copy of a person, it is the corruption of a person. It is what you could become if you gave in to your darkest impulses. The witch, by definition, was once a human, a member of the community, a healer. They are the dark twin of the Hatawi, medicine man. This creates a terrifying philosophical mirror for the entire community. When they look at the Skinwalker, they are not just seeing a monster. They are seeing a possible future. They are seeing the result of a choice. This is infinitely more disturbing than a creature like the Wendigo, which is often seen as a tragic victim of starvation and possession. The Skinwalker is not a victim. It is a volunteer. It chose the path of corruption for power. This makes the Skinwalker the ultimate embodiment of the shadow self, the Jungian archetype of the repressed dark side of our own personality. It is all the greed, rage, jealousy, and ambition that civilized people are taught to suppress, given a physical form and a pelt to wear. The witch is a human who has failed to integrate their shadow and has instead been consumed by it. This is why the Skinwalker is the perfect metaphor. The witch has become a hollow vessel, a literal skin of a human, with nothing but the shadow inside. This adds a layer of profound existential dread to the myth. The fear is not just, will a Skinwalker get me? The deeper, more terrifying question is, am I capable of becoming a Skinwalker? Am I one terrible transgression away from becoming the monster? This internal moral anxiety is the true, forbidden truth. The taboo of silence is not just to protect the community from the creature. It is to protect the individual from the idea, the seductive, corrupting idea that power can be seized if you are willing to pay the ultimate price. The Skinwalker is the fear of our own potential for evil, given glowing red eyes and the ability to run 70 miles per hour. Why has there never been a truly great, terrifying, or culturally accurate Skinwalker film? The answer is simple. Hollywood cannot tell this story. The very structure of Western commercial filmmaking is philosophically incapable of capturing the essence of this myth. The Skinwalker, as we have established, is an internal, psychological, and sociological horror. Hollywood, by contrast, is a machine built to produce external, visual, and physical horror. When Hollywood tries to adapt the Skinwalker, they are forced to make a series of sanitizing choices that instantly destroy the legend. First, they must show the monster. This is the cardinal sin. The moment you show the Skinwalker in high-definition CGI, it is no longer the Auntie It is just a werewolf, a CG creature feature. The horror of the unspoken and the unseen is immediately sacrificed for the sake of a third-act monster fight. The paranoia is gone, replaced by a generic visual. Second, Hollywood must create a hero. The Western narrative structure demands a protagonist who fights back. A sheriff, a scientist, a teenager who finds a magic bullet. This is a complete betrayal of the myth's core. In Diné philosophy, you do not fight the witch with a gun. You defend yourself with harmony, Hózhó, and ritual, the healer. The idea of a lone hero defeating the Skinwalker is a colonialist fantasy. It imposes a Western individualist solution on a problem that is deeply communal. Third, and most importantly, Hollywood must externalize the threat. The monster must be an outsider, a creature from the hills. They are terrified of the true, disturbing premise that the monster is the neighbor, the family member, the insider. A film that truly embraced the paranoia of the Skinwalker myth would be a slow-burn, claustrophobic psychological thriller. More The Thing or Invasion of the Body Snatchers than Underworld. It would be a story with no clear hero, no clear monster, and no clear resolution. It would be a film where the true enemy is the breakdown of social trust. This is not a story that sells tickets or popcorn. The curse of the Skinwalker in cinema is that to adapt it correctly, you must make a film that is fundamentally uncommercial. Thus, the real, terrifying Auntie remains safe from Hollywood sanitization, protected by the very silence that makes it so powerful. Why does this specific, ancient, and deeply localized myth have such explosive power now? Why has it broken containment from the Diné nation and gone globally viral in the digital age? The answer is that the Skinwalker is the perfect monster for the modern age. We are living in an age of profound paranoia, social disconnection, and identity anxiety. The Skinwalker myth resonates because it speaks to all our deepest modern fears. We are a society obsessed with the insider threat. The modern fascination with this myth is not just a thrill-seek, it is a profound, subconscious act of recognition. We are fascinated by this myth because we see it. We see the wasting sickness, corpse poison, in the form of online toxicity and mimetic negativity that sickens the mind. We see the mimetismo, the stolen voice, in the deepfakes and the fake personas of social media. We see the greed of the witch in the rampant, unchecked ambition of the modern corporate world. The Skinwalker is no longer a Navajo-specific taboo. It has become the global symbol for the horror of the sociopath. It is the American Psycho of the supernatural world. The reason the legend endures, and the reason it is so dangerous to speak of, is that it holds up a mirror. It forces us to ask, in a world that rewards the ánti'ihnii philosophy, how do we protect our own Hózhó? How do we maintain our balance when the entire world is pushing us toward the path of the witch? The Skinwalker is not just a monster in the desert, it is the shadow that follows our own unchecked ambition. We began this journey by breaking a taboo, by speaking the unspeakable. But the ultimate lesson of the Skinwalker myth is a profound respect for silence. In our modern world, we are drowning in noise, in data, in endless, meaningless chatter. We have forgotten the power of the unsaid. The Atribuição culture, by protecting this legend with a wall of silence, has preserved its power. They have kept the monster pure. They have saved it from the sanitization that claimed Dracula and the commercialization that captured the Hózhó. The Atribuição remains one of the last true, authentic horrors in the world because it has not been defanged by Hollywood or explained away by science. It is a perfect self-contained system of fear. The silence of the elders is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of power. It is a containment protocol that has worked for centuries. By refusing to engage, they refuse to give the monster the energy it craves. This is the final, dark lesson that Umbral Fables must acknowledge. We exist to investigate the darkness, but we must also respect it. The Skinwalker legend is a terrifying reminder that some doors are closed for a reason. Some truths are forbidden, not because they are false, but because they are true, because they contain a power that the human mind is not meant to trifle with. We have walked the path of the witch. We have looked into the abyss of human corruption. The question now is what we do with this knowledge. If this deep, respectful investigation into the philosophy of the taboo resonated with you, you understand the mission of this channel. We do not seek to exploit the dark. We seek to understand the psychology it reveals. Leave a comment below with your own thoughts, respectfully. Do you believe this silence is a necessary defense or a form of suppression? Your analysis is part of this archive. Subscribe to Umbral Fables as we continue to investigate the fine line between myth and the human mind. This is Umbral Fables. We leave you now, not with a monster, but with a warning, delivered in the language of the legend itself, in the profound, respectful, and necessary power of silence. Look closely. The dark journey continues.